Organized by students. Harvard distances itself from Pakistan Conference row after Pahalgam attack. Days after organizing the Pakistan Conference 2025 on April 27, Harvard University's South Asia Institute has distanced itself from the controversy that followed and asserted the conference was independently organized by the students and their faculty advisor. The university faced a backlash for organizing the event just 5 days after the Pahalgam terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir, which claimed the lives of 26 tourists on April 22. In a statement, Harvard University's South Asia Institute also extended its condolences to the victims of the attack. The institute supports academic research projects and works with other university partners on multiple events throughout the academic year. One such event was the Pakistan Conference, organized by students from Harvard and held on April 27, 2025. The statement read: In accordance with our principles of operation, we did not consult any benefactor of the institute regarding this conference. The students, along with their faculty advisor, independently determined the topics and speakers presenting. It added: Also read diplomacy, economy, narrative. India steps up pressure on Pakistan off the battlefield. We share the grief and anguish with our friends, colleagues and loved ones in India who have been affected by the attack in Pahalgam on April 22, 2025, and we offer our heartfelt condolences, the university stated. As the university organized the Pakistan Conference soon after the Pahalgam terror attack, 2 Indian students, Surabhai Tomar and Abhishek Chaudhary, urged the varsity management to review the participation of Pakistani nationals and requested the authorities to issue a statement condemning the Kashmir attack. These acts of violence were not indiscriminate, they were calculated attacks based solely on religious identity, the letter by the students stated. While formally denying involvement, Pakistan's ministers and lawmakers have simultaneously issued aggressive warnings to India and reaffirmed their support for insurgent activity in Kashmir. Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Ishaq Dar has even issued threats of retaliation, should India take any kinetic step in response. The letter read: Welcoming representatives of a government that not only denies accountability for but also ideologically supports such religio-based terrorism, risks Harvard being complicit in legitimizing those who enable or justify these crimes, the students wrote in the letter. We ask for the clarity, courage and compassion for Hindu and Indian students grieving the targeted killing of members of their faith. We request you to take a stance against Hindu phobia. It read: Also read Pak-based terrorist may have played key Pahalgam role, helped Pakistani attackers infiltrate. We respectfully request that Harvard University 1. Issue a public statement condemning the Pahalgam terror attacks and affirming support for victims of religio-based violence. 2. Review the participation of Pakistani officials at the Pakistan Conference 2025 in light of their government's ideological and rhetorical support for groups like Let. 3. Provide emotional and institutional support to affected students through the Office for Equity, Diversity, Inclusion and Belonging. The letter mentioned. This is not about political posturing. It is about moral clarity. Harvard must ensure its campus does not become a platform for whitewashing state-enabled religious terrorism. It concluded. Nanan speaking to news agency ANI recently, Surabhai Tomar said, the horrible attack in Pahalgam was a targeted, religio-based massacre. When Harvard invites officials, especially officials who have ideologically justified such acts, it risks legitimizing the state-backed terror narratives on our campus. This is the reason why we thought that we should take some action or ask people to take some action. Elaborating more on the event, Tomar said, it was a pre-planned event, and it was a coincidence. However, even given the coincidence, we do not think that it is correct for anyone, especially a university like Harvard, to legitimize such voices, especially when they in their country are trying to justify such acts and not condemning them. She further said that the students have urged U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio to deny visas to officials who support terror-linked ideologies. We shouldn't stay silent after a faith-based killing, that is our belief. We consulted our peers. We received a great deal of support from students from 65 countries. We read the testimonies of survivors, and we acted on a shared moral obligation to speak out. We emphasized that this was not random violence. It was religious persecution, she said. We urged Harvard to stand against Hindu phobia and asked the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio to deny visas to officials who support terror-linked ideologies, Tomar added. Also read Indian Army Northern Command Chief ousted over Pahalgam attack. PIB fact checks pro-Pakistani handles. Another student, Rashmini Koparkar, expressed disappointment, stating that the guests at the event didn't condemn the Pahalgam attack and show sensitivity. We were expecting a certain degree of sensitivity and acknowledgement of what has happened. The event was pre-planned and already discussed. It was a coincidence that the event took place within 5 days. However, a more thoughtful gesture would have been preferable. First of all, they could have condemned the attacks. Secondly, the number of guests and the high-ranking officials that were arriving at this event were actually in question because this is a state which has been harboring cross-border terrorism for years. India has been suffering, Koparkar said. Nanan on April 22, armed terrorists unleashed horror by opening fire at tourists in Kashmir's iconic Pahalgam. The wives and other relatives of those killed in the attack later revealed to the media that the terrorists asked the names and the faith of tourists before shooting them dead. They also reportedly asked those who said they belonged to the Muslim community to recite the Kalma. The terrorists shot dead those who said they were Hindus, and left their relatives, especially women, asking them to narrate the ordeal to the government. Swipe left for next video. The attack claimed the lives of 26 tourists, including one Nepali national. Also read PM Modi chairs Cabinet Committee on Political Affairs meet, first since Pulwama attack. Latest blogs.